Cheers! I'm having a Xander special smoothie and it's thick. So I was lifting the straw to get the stuff up top. Because I haven't vlogged in a week, I seem to have lost... Oh! Sorry, I just saw an ugly, ugly yellow car. Oh, that was nasty. It looked like corn. Corn on wheels. Corn on the cobs on wheels. I'm sorry, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I just saw what could possibly be the ugliest car in the world. Oh my gosh. It was a yellow, but it wasn't one of that... It wasn't a flashy yellow like you see on sports cars or a dark golden yellow. It was like this light yellow that looked like corn on the cob. And I think it was probably one of those kit cars because I've never seen a car like that. It was long and narrow and it looked like a corn on the cob on wheels. I'm sorry. I'm back. Okay, I'm gonna try and get through this one because I've tried to record many times. Hey, it's May 6th and obviously I'm doing a lot better than last weekend. Oh, I'm sorry if I've been missing in action for the past week. I've had a bit of a health problem that I needed to deal with. I'm fine. I'm pretty sure I'm out of the woods. But as a result of that, I was put on bed rest for 48 hours, and I don't like to be told to be on bed rest. I love to rest. There's nothing I love better than resting when I should not be resting. I have no problems with reading when I should not be reading, but if you tell me that I should be on bed rest, that's when I get into trouble because I don't like to be told. How dare you dictate to me when I should be resting? Anyways, it was necessary. I'm pretty sure everything's fine, but I'm on antibiotics right now and it's doing a number on my system. Ugh, I hate that. But anyways, things will go back to normal. So I do apologize for that delay, but I have cards to show you. I have cards that I made out of scraps. I have cards that I made out of pieces of paper where I was testing out color combinations. And I was going to throw them away, but I didn't because there's color on it and I hate throwing away a piece of paper that you've added color yourself. I mean, it's a piece of paper that's waiting, that's calling for your attention. Especially if it's a good size. I mean, I'm not talking about little scraps here and there, but like 4x4, don't throw that away. So on that piece of paper, you can pretty much do what you want. You can doodle, which I've done. You can stamp on it. Which I've also done. You can color over it. There's many different ways, and I loved doing it so much that I've actually recreated a few backgrounds. I've also got a couple of cards to show you, cards that I've made for the store. And you'll have to excuse me, I forget how many cards I have to show you because I haven't edited that part. I'm actually recording this intro before I edit the bits and pieces that I filmed over the past few weeks. Because I said I was going to do a cards vlog, I kind of, you know, merged everything into this video. So some footage comes from a few weeks back. So I think I'm just going to stop babbling and I'm going to show you my cards now. So here's the card that I did yesterday. I love it. I think it's cute. The stamp set is this one by Paper Smooches. This is their logo. Look how fun this stamp set is. It's got the scooter side view and then the scooter front view. And this is a die. There's also a die for the clouds, but I didn't have it available to me when I was shooting yesterday. But there's a die for the the side view and the front scooter. So much fun, so much fun. The stamp set comes with 3 sentiments, which is great. The card base that I use is this one here. It's by American Crafts cardstock. It's always nice to have an embossed background. So if you don't have a lot of embossing folders, that's one good alternative. To color this image, I used water-based markers, Tombows. I also used the distress markers. I didn't want something too complicated. I could have reached for my Copic markers, but I like to use my water-based markers sometimes. I like the sketchy look that it gives. You can see the streaks. It's fun to have that sometimes. I find it's more whimsical. I also added some white accents here and there. A little bit of bling. These flowers here, I used a masking technique to stamp the flowers in these two parts because, as you can see, the scooter doesn't come with the flowers on it, but it comes with two different sizes of flowers. So I used the bigger one for these two parts, and I used post-it notes to mask the other areas. And I used the smaller flower here at the bottom. I figured if you're gonna ride a flowery scooter, you might as well have flowers on the ground. That's my theory. And I also decorated the inside of the card. So this time I used the full, the side view scooter, and I just stamped the back of it. This is the smoke that goes with that. There's also the flag post. I added the heart, and I added the sentiment "scootin' by to say hi." The heart is colored with a wink of Stella. You can see the reflection, and also the handles are also colored with the wink of Stella. So that is the card. You can go on Scrapbook Centrale's website to check it out, check the full tutorial. Okay, so as you can see, I have a great collection of gelatos. This is too deep. And the reason why I have so many is because I've taken classes and I've gone to shows where they were giving the supplies. So I have amassed quite a good quantity of gelatos, and I need to use them. So I took a penny black stamp, which is this one. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love, love, love this stamp. This one is First Dance 4383K. I'm a big fan of penny black stamps, and it's the perfect image to stamp with gelatos. So I did this card. I love how it turned out. I ended up using two colors of gelatos for the flower, and at the bottom here I have the mint metallic, which has a nice sheen to it. And then the green, I believe it's called pistachio, for the stem and the leaves. Now the stamping was a mistake, but it was a happy mistake. My first stamping was not, didn't work well, so I attempted to stamp right over it because I was using a clear stamp, and somehow I offset it by mistake, but it looks as if I've done it on purpose. So it's a happy mistake, and it's great because I didn't want to do it all over again. So it's kind of like a shadow stamping effect. But the background is also done with gelatos. It's two tones. It's the pistachio and the mint metallic that I use on watercolor paper. This is also watercolor paper, but you can do this technique on any kind of paper that will take to the water well, like mixed media paper would work as well. So I added gelato around the perimeter of a piece of watercolor cardstock, and then I blended it with my finger in some water. But while I was making this card, of course I always practice, and I ended up with a piece of cardstock that had four colors. So I have the pistachio here, and I have the mint green, and I had kind of like a circle with the yellow, which is, I believe, mango, yes. It's mango and blood orange around it. I was just testing out to see if the colors would work well together, and look what I ended up with. I ended up doodling over that. I can't throw this away. It has some nice color, and especially with the mint, the metallic mint around it. I didn't want to throw it away. So I just took my marker and I started doodling. I thought, okay, this could be a tree in the middle, and then I went from that. And it's a very, very, very simple piece of paper, but that could easily be turned into a card. So I'm going to use that to make a card, and I'm going to experiment more with the gelatos, and I will attempt to make a series of very simple cards with just a sentiment. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So last night I was playing around with this little book that I had built back in the days when I was with Stampin' Up, and it has a whole bunch of notes. I used it for notes, hence the name. But I still have some of these sheets that are, I mean, I'm not using this book anymore, and there's only a couple of sheets, so I was playing around with the paper. This is vanilla cardstock by Stampin' Up! And I wanted to see how well it would hold the gelato with a bit of water. I did not spray before I added the color onto this. I just scribbled and then I used my finger to rub. Obviously, you're not going to get as nice a blend as with watercolor paper, but it's still fun to do. I'm sure there's something I can do with that. This one I have no clue, so I think I'm going to stamp over this one. Because if I follow the pattern of the scribbling, it doesn't really speak to me. So I'll see what I can do on this one. These two, I think, these again, like this is the metallic one. Look how beautiful the sheen is. So these are metallic gelatos. All these are gelatos, but these are the metallic ones. I love, 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 love the reflection I get from this. And this is just like the regular gelatos. So let me see what I can do with that. All right, so the first one that I'm tackling is probably my least favorite background. The circles threw me off, so I kind of challenged myself to do something with this first. And so I decided to use Doodling. I am using a Permaball Pilot pen for this. And the shapes of the flowers are not my favorite, but I had to go with it. I was determined to finish the piece like so. Later on, I will add something to the flowers. And that idea came to me while I was drawing it. So I kind of reinforced the lines around. This is one trick that I've discovered. If you're not happy with something, make it even more doodly by going over many times. And then eventually you'll get the shape that you like by reinforcing the lines and by emphasizing the mistakes. They become intentional. Now the next background, I've had to redo. I showed you at the beginning with this. This is the second version of it because I did something over that and I didn't like it. So I used the back side of the original paper to recreate the background. So as you can see, I started with the paintbrush. I didn't like it. I ended up taking a baby wipe and merging the colors together. Sorry about the back of my head. This is a very classic Stampin' Up! Stamp that I used. It's from Lovely as a Tree, and it's probably one of my favorite from back in the days when I was a Stampin' Up! Demo. Again, the head. So I'm stamping Happy Holidays, and the way I stamped it was using Versamark first, and then archival ink, and then embossing it. And all of a sudden the archival ink becomes embossable because you do have that faint Versamark behind it. So that's one trick. If you don't have pigment inks, which are the inks that you can actually emboss with, you can use Versamark and any other ink on top and it will become embossable. Now the trees, I forgot, after I embossed the sentiment, I decided to also emboss the trees to have a better balance. And so I'm using a Stamp-A-Majig to go over the first stamping, and that way I know that I'll be stamping right over the same image. And then I'm going to emboss again with, this is a powder called Hologram. I'm not sure who it's from. I do believe it was a Ranger product, but I cannot be entirely sure. I don't have the original package. So I'm just hitting it with the heat tool to complete the embossing. And I love that effect. It has glitter inside that powder, which I love. After I trimmed it down, I decided to add some blue because it looked like I only had two colors on that paper. And just by adding that touch of blue made it more of an ombre effect, which I liked. The next one, I'm just going to stamp that cute little house by Jofi, which I love. I won't color the image, but I'll just add some grass and a horizon line with the Permaball pen and some touches of white with the Mean Streak Sharpie pen inside the windows and a bit on the grounds. And later on I added sentiment as well. Okay, so here's another challenge. That background is absolutely ugly. I didn't like it, but I was testing out some colors, and I was determined to use it. So I'm using a penny black stamp, and I'm going to stamp first one flower in the middle, and I'm not happy with the placement of the other flowers, but I'm going to do something about them when I trim the final piece. To incorporate those harsh dark lines that I have in the background, I decided to use a permaball pen and trace around them to create sort of like a texture to the background. I'm still not quite happy with it, but it's okay. The only thing is I needed to pop that flower in the middle. So I'm using a white gel pen to go inside the stamp lines of just that flower. Very sketchily, not perfect, but I really like the effect. And again, my head. And I've added the sentiment, and oops, we can't really read it well. So after I stamped it, I'm going over the permaball pen, and it was quite easy to trace. And that made it pop a little bit better. It was easier to read. So as you can see, I do make a lot of mistakes, but they're fun. You improve on them and you just go with the flow. Now, this is the one that inspired this whole series of cards, and I'm just adding a sentiment with the top of my head again. And back to this one. So this one again, I'm going to add a sentiment. This time I settled for a happy hello. And after I trimmed down my cards or my images, this is what I'm left with. I lined them all up with black mats using a perfect layers ruler, which has a lip, and it catches the top layer, and then you cut around the image with an exact border. I love, love, love these rulers. They are available in most scrapbooking stores, so you can probably find them there or online, I guess. Now I'm matching my images with the card bases. Most of them are the same vanilla cardstock by Stampin' Up, except for this one is watercolor, and I've decided to add a background using gelatos and blending it with my fingers and some water. And those are the same colors that are reflected on the top image. And I love doing that because you can get an exact match. So you don't need a whole bunch of cardstock in your collection as long as you have the tools, and you know, we all have tools. As long as you have the right tools, then you're all set. And I did go right up to the edges of that card base, and I love that effect. I decided to use foam squares to add the piece to the top of the card base. And I'm pretty much going to do the same thing for all the other cards, creating the backgrounds with gelatos and adding the top image with foam adhesives. And one thing I have to mention, this is not watercolor paper. This is actually very vanilla cardstock by Stampin' Up. And I was quite surprised to see that it was taking the wet wipe really well. It didn't warp the paper too much. It didn't pill the paper too much. So that was a good thing. And I didn't spray the water, mind you. So it was a lot less water than spraying by using the baby wipe. The background of this card is a different cardstock again. This is white textured cardstock by Basil. And again, it will take to the baby wipe quite well. I decided to just do around the edges, and it gives a nice textured effect. I really like that. By spreading the color, it brings out the texture of the cardstock. So that's a lot of fun. I mean, you can experiment with all kinds of paper and cardstock, and you'll get some interesting results every time. I felt that I needed to bring in the white around the edges as well to coordinate with the inside, with the flower on top. So I busted out my white gel pen again, and I added a stitched line all around the black mat. And I like the effect. I mean, that's a trick I've used in the past. There was a period in my life where I did everything with stitch lines. But you get back to your old things once in a while. You revisit them. So I'm now back onto a vanilla cardstock, and I'm using 4 colors of gelatos, this time around to match the background of the main image. And I will be blending again with the baby wipe. One thing I forgot to mention, you can actually blend gelatos with just your fingers without adding any water or using a baby wipe. It will have a different look, and I find that that look is best achieved when you use watercolor paper. It makes it more interesting. It's just a preference of mine that I use it while wet. For my last card, I settled on just using the orange. There's a lot of colors happening in the foreground, and I wanted something to bring out everything. So by using just one color, all of a sudden the top image will pop. And this is also vanilla cardstock. And like the other cards, I'm going to use foam adhesive to adhere the image to the card. And I thought it was missing something big time, so I decided to bust out my buttons and add brass buttons, which I've glued down with Beacon 3-in-1 liquid adhesive. When it's completely dry, those buttons won't move. It's quite solid. And here's a final close-up of all of the cards that I made using that technique. So now I have 5 cards to add to my cards keeper, which I've done with Basic Ray's Birdsong collection last spring, I believe. And I do have a show and tell on that and the cards that I made with the leftover paper, and I will link that below in the description box so you can see this, how I made this, and also my desktop calendar, which is made with the same paper collection. And here's the last one I wanted to show you. This is obviously done with a gorgeous stamp, Jorjuss or Gurjuss by Santoro London. And I just love her. She's always so beautiful, very well designed. And in the stamp set comes this background of flowers and grass, butterflies. There's also a few clocks. Here are the other ones that I didn't use. There's a bowl, there's 2 clocks, there the hands, a photo corner. Love, love, love that stamp set. But what I'm mostly in love with on this card is the background that I created. Kind of like what I showed you with the gelatos, but this time I used distress stains on watercolor paper. And oh, this is so much fun. Of course, the stains are very, very pigmented. They're very concentrated in color, so the colors always comes out rich. And so what I did is, whoops, too close again. I laid down the colors. I laid 3 colors, so I did peacock feathers, what's it called, peel paint, and forest moss at the bottom. This is black that I added at the end, but the last green here is forest moss. Then I hit it with some water and let it run. I kind of moved it around and let it dry, and then once it was dry, I hit it with just a few drops of water, and it creates that nice effect. It reactivates the stain. And then I took a paper towel and I dabbed over the water droplets, and it removes some of that ink to give that nice special effect. I love it. I added glossy accent on the clock face. I'm kind of far for you to see. There you go. And I colored her actually with all of the distress stains that I had used in the background, plus some black soot and some red barn door, and then the face is with spun sugar. So just a regular water brush, which is here, like something like this, and the distress stains, and I colored her in. So there it is. That's the last card I wanted to show you. So I hope this was inspiring. Coming from a card making, having a card making background, of course I do have a lot of cardstock, but I never seem to have the perfect color. So I find if you have white or cream, black, maybe brown, maybe, and watercolor cardstock, you're all set. You don't need a gazillion color cardstock unless you're a scrapbooker, because then you need the 12 by 12. But even then, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do starting from scratch if you have the right tools. And I know that I'm speaking mostly to people who are into mixed media, so we all have paints. We probably have gelatos, we probably have sprays. So these are good tools to use to either color the front of your card or the card base to make it perfectly coordinating. I love that. I love that. And they're a lot of fun to make as well. So let your creativity. Oh, speaking of creativity, I read somewhere, I forget where though. I don't think it was a comment from a subby, but somebody I read somewhere that creativity is like a muscle. It needs to be exercised every day. I thought it was so true. It's true. The more you create, the more you can create. So exercise your creativity muscle and you'll be a lot more creative. Before I go, I had a comment last week. Somebody asked me about my store. So I just want to specify again, I do not own the store that I'm referring to constantly. The name of the store is called Scrapbook Centrale. It is a local scrapbook store. So if you're in the Montreal area, you can go and visit. I have the link to that store, so you can check the website. It's got all the information. I do not own it. I'm not even an employee of that store. That store is my customer. I take care of their social media campaigns and I also make videos for that store, but I do not own a store. Just, I wanted to correct that. So that is it. That's all I have for you today. I hope that you've enjoyed these cards. I'm going to make similar vlogs like this from time to time. I will probably accumulate all the cards that I make and then show them all at once like I did. And I hope that you are doing well, and in the meantime, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I will see you later. Bye!